We are live. It is a Tuesday on Championship Rings. I am back, Brandon Lewis from Brandon's World, alongside my regular co-host, Ungar to the Max, Josh Ungar. Josh, we ready to roll tonight?
We are. And I know you got a couple announcements you want to tell our viewers.
Yeah, so me and Josh have been talking. Obviously it is the summer season. We are both getting prepared and obviously revved up for football season. We have a couple NFL topics that we're going to get into tonight. But we are here to announce tonight that the next week on Championship Rings, we are going to preview WWE SummerSlam 2024 right here on Championship Rings. We will do it for the majority of the show, and we will do it with our man, big wrestling fan, C-Boss Gaming, who of course filled in for me last week. Thank you, C-Boss, and has filled in for Josh over the last couple episodes here.
Yep. And of course, SummerSlam is happening right here in Cleveland at Cleveland Browns Stadium. Brandon's going to be there. I'm going to be there. C-Boss is going to be there. It's going to be a whole good time.
The other announcement that we would like to make is, obviously, as we mentioned, in August, there's not a ton going on in the sports world. The Olympics will be ending. You've got NFL preseason football, which me and Josh have sort of both talked about on and off the air. We don't love preseason football. So we want to sort of take a little bit of a break for Championship Rings, like I do with Brandon's World. Our season finale will be August 6th. Of course, we started this show on September 5th, 2023. We've been doing this now almost every Tuesday for a year. We're going to take a couple weeks off after we recap SummerSlam and all the other things in the sports world on that Tuesday. We will be back 2 weeks later, August 28th, where not only will Josh recap the AEW All-In pay-per-view in London, and who knows, we may even have a new AEW media rights deal done by then, but we will also fully preview the 2024 NFL season. Division winners, Super Bowl picks, potential MVP award winners, you name it. We will be here to fully preview the NFL season. As of course, the following week, we dive into week 1 of the NFL season.
We got a couple Unger to the Max hardcore power tools, and I didn't say I was a wrestling fan. Well, yes, I am, Grandizer.
And with that, we're going to kick it off tonight by talking about some potential big news in the National Basketball Association. And it's not on the court, Josh. It is off the court, as it is reported that TNT, aka Warner Brothers Media, has decided to match Amazon's bid for the National Basketball Association.
So this is surprising to me. I had a feeling TNT would match an offer, but I didn't expect it to be Amazon's. I thought it would be NBC's bid, because essentially it feels like NBC, Peacock, whatever you want to say there, is the one that's replacing TNT in the long run. That's just how I'm interpreting this whole thing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I get the way you're interpreting it, but I think that the NBA and TNT have made it clear that if they were going to renew negotiating rights, it would have been for a lower package, which sounded like the Amazon package that they were going for, because it was no secret that NBA was trying to get the NBC back into things. I will say off rip, I hope the NBA does go to TNT and they do not decide to go to Amazon Prime. It's not to keep inside the NBA. It's really not. For me, it is about the value of what you are getting out of your media rights partners. And that is the fact that you already have a streaming deal, in my opinion, with Peacock. where the NBA is going to have multiple games per week exclusively on Peacock. They already announced with this media rights deal that it's going to be 7 days a week post NFL season. There's going to be a national basketball game on every single day of the week, and 2 or 3 of those days is are going to be Peacock exclusives. For me, you add the streaming with Peacock. You have your broadcast reach with not only NBC but with ABC as well. Outside of ESPN, there was no cable component to this media rights deal. And even though we've talked about the media rights and the cable industry is not as strong, obviously, and is in a decline, I think sports is the one area that it's not going to be declining. Sports is the one reason why people still have cable. And so, for that reason, that is the majority of why I want the NBA to stay on TNT. And also because of the great announcers they already have: Ian Eagle, Kevin Arwen, Reggie Miller, Greg Anthony, you name them.
Okay, so you may not care as much about the inside the NBA, but I do. I love listening to Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal just banter with each other, and I like the analysis Kenny the Jet Smith gives, even when he trips going upstairs to get to that like giant board. Um, but I like their analysis, so I hope they stay. But it almost feels like the NBA is trying to copy the NFL because if you remember, the NFL has moved Thursday Night Football to be exclusively on Amazon, whereas it used to be on like NFL Network or whatever. Um, and so now the NBA's like, oh, we got to try and keep up with our biggest competitor. How do we do that? Let's get on the same networks as them. So it makes me wonder if I know the NBA is probably going to shore up their media rights deal by the end of this week or whatever. That's just my guess. But at some point, does the NBA try to get on Fox to even more match up with the NFL?
I don't see the NBA going to Fox. I think that if Fox wanted in on the NBA, they would have done it now. And I think Fox looks at it and they say, we have so much NFL content. We have so much college football content. We have college basketball content. And we have baseball that they don't necessarily have room for the NBA.
And maybe that's part of the reason why they're dropping Friday Night SmackDown for
Well,
WWE.
the biggest reason with that is the ad dollars were not worth it for them, and also because they could get college football on Friday nights in the Big Ten, which is what they're doing. Which obviously smart decision there. Um, but I think it's gonna be very interesting to see what the NBA does with this. I don't know the direction they're gonna go. Something tells me TNT has forced their way back into the media rights deal, and the NBA may have to take it, but I don't think the NBA wants to.
Yeah, but like the NBA knows Amazon is the bigger company, if you will. So that may be why they end up going with them and cutting TNT out. Really.
From the wording of what it sounds like to me, is that essentially the NBA may not have a choice. They may have to go to TNT.
Why do you say that?
Because I read in the contract that basically it says that that in the NBA on TNT's media rights contract, it basically said that if TNT were to lose the media rights package, they would have the right to counter any media deal, and when they do, essentially, if the NBA does not buy them out, they have to accept TNT's counteroffer.
Okay. So that's interesting because that makes things a lot more complicated, I would say.
Which is why they push so hard to make a counter offer, because now they have the leverage over Amazon.
Yeah, but again, to go back to my original point, it was NBC that kind of jumped the line ahead of them. So I'm surprised that TNT tried is matching Amazon's offer rather than NBC.
Well, and as I said, I think the NBA has made it really crystal clear, and they did it before they even started negotiating these media rights deal, that NBC was going to get back in the race. And, I think that everybody wants the NBA and NBC back. Everybody is happy about it. And I think even TNT and Warner has realized that they were not going to be number two in command anymore for the NBA, that they were always looking at, as it was reported, to be that third partner, to sort of take a step back, to be the one with the play in tournament and the in season tournament and the first round of playoff games, not necessarily the conference finals every single year.
What it makes me wonder though is is NBA TV connected with Warner Brothers?
NBA TV, I do not believe it is, and I have not heard anything on the front of NBA TV when it comes to these contracts.
Because I know NBA TV broadcasts a handful of games throughout the season as well. So how do they factor into all of this? That's what I'm wondering.
My guess is that NBA TV is going to turn into what NFL Network essentially is now, which the NFL is trying to go away from NFL Network as a whole, especially when it comes to broadcasting games. They've been cutting a lot of people and running a lot of old content. I think that's what the NBA TV is going to turn into. I don't think it's necessarily going to be this big media rights package because not a lot of people in every home gets NBA TV.
Yeah. Do you think okay, so but we know NFL Red Zone is a popular thing because you see other stations trying to copycat it. Do you think we could see something like that for the NBA?
Well, I think they already have League Pass, and it's obviously been successful. And the difference between League Pass and NFL Red Zone is the NFL is only 1 day a week, the NBA is seven. So I don't think it's necessarily necessary. Because you have League Pass, you're gonna watch the game that you want to watch.
Fair enough.
Let's move on. Let's talk about the WNBA All Stars defeating Team USA.
Yeah. Um See, this was actually hey NBA, this is what we call a competitive All-Star game. Not 211 to 187 or whatever the hell the score of this year's NBA All-Star game was. You could tell these these women actually like wanted to compete and like win for their respective teams. It's not just like, oh, let's just lollygag and have fun. And no, we actually want to win.
Well, not only that, but I think this year was a special occasion because I think obviously, some people felt like Caitlin Clark got snubbed from the Olympic team. Some people felt like Angel Reese got snubbed from the Olympic team. And, they obviously played well in the game. And I also think that from the WNBA All Star perspective, view it as a tune up for Team USA as they obviously get ready to compete in the Olympics this week.
Yeah. It. I wonder how they're gonna do it moving forward because obviously, like, we're not competing in the Olympics every year. So, can you do some type of format like this? Or is this just like a one off type situation? That's
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming again because everybody's so new to the WNBA that you would probably know this, but it's a two-part question. In the past, had they done before, during a non-Olympic year, had they done like East versus West?
I think so. I'd have to go back and look at some of the past All Star games.
I'm also wondering if they would consider doing the LeBron Steph, the LeBron Giannis type draft the NBA had done prior to going back to East versus West this year.
Yeah, they could. Um, my guess would be if they do that, the first two captains would most likely be Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, we talked about this before, and I feel the same thing about the WNBA. Again, it's nothing against Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark. The fact of the matter is, though, I don't think fan voting should be involved in All Star games. I really think fan voting, you have biases towards players. I have biases towards players. I really think that should be reserved to the coaching aspect and the GMs and the executives of the week. And the WNBA is smaller as well, obviously. There's only, what, 8 teams right now, I believe? I
No,
could be wrong
there's
on that.
like
Is
no,
there
there's more.
12?
Um,
I know 8 make the playoffs.
yeah, there. I'll double check, but it's at least 12.
Okay. Because I know 8 make the playoffs, and obviously they're going to be expanding to two more to this year. But um, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think the WNBA All Star Game out of maybe the MLB All Star Game was a little more competitive, but you're right. I agree with you. This is how the NBA should do their All Star Game.
And by the way, yes, it is 12
Yeah.
teams in the WNBA. Next year it's going to be 13, and I believe it's the year after they'll expand to 14.
And again, with that, 18, 14, it really doesn't matter. The fact there's going to be more players in the league, I think it's good for the sport. It's going to be good expansion. And so they may have to tweak the All Star game format. But regardless, you can't really mail it in for an All Star game when people are just starting to watch your product.
Right. So before we move on from WNBA, we might have talked about this once before, but we know that like the WNBA kind of competes with Major League Baseball in in terms of the summer. Do you think that right now the WNBA could pass Major League Baseball in terms of like popularity, however you want to define that?
In the future, potentially a decade down the line, sure. And again, it depends on the impact that, in my opinion, Caitlin Clark will have on the WNBA. Will her reach continue to grow the sport, and will it continue to just be a LeBron James like effect? Or will it be, not saying that she's not going to grow the game, but will there be some sort of cap on it where it's not as exponentially growing as it did this year? And does the MLB get their stars together? Do they have, a better marketing? I thought this year's MLB All Star Game was probably one of the best they've done in terms of marketing and availability and pace of play. So I think it's possible, but I also think it's going to be very difficult to pull off.
Right. I would when I say right now, maybe that was a little too literal, but like it feels like from conversations I've had, from our conversations on this show, it feels like more people are paying attention to the WNBA rather than MLB.
Well, I've said this. I do think the WNBA has done a good job at being a little more national, and baseball has gone the opposite way, which is baseball is very regional. It's very hard to follow national baseball. I mean, there's a reason why tonight in our baseball topic we're talking only Cleveland Guardians. We're not talking Major League Baseball. Um, Baseball has done, I think, a very difficult job in trying to be a national sport for whatever reason. I don't know if it's more games, I don't know if it's more people in the sport, less involvement. I don't know what it is, but it's just become a very regional sport where unless you have a baseball team in your own town, you're not going to watch it.
I think part of the reason for that is because a lot of the stars play for the big boys, like the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, you know, whereas like in leagues such as the NHL, you have teams like Pittsburgh, Chicago. Yeah, they're some of the big boys, but they're not like New York, LA,
Well,
Boston.
well, I think the greatest example of that would be the National Football League. Every team feels like they have a star, and every team, no matter what market you're in, feels like you have a chance to win.
Yeah. Well, unless you're the Carolina Panthers.
With that, we got to move on. Speaking of the NFL, how about this? Coaches, executives, they have taken a poll on their top 10 quarterbacks entering the 2024 NFL season. And outside of Patrick Mahomes being number one, there's a lot of conversation about this list.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes being number one made it that was feels like a no brainer. Dude's won back to back Super Bowls, trying for three in a row, although the Chiefs are like making it really hard on themselves for some reason with all these arrests and legal issues and whatnot. But nonetheless, yeah. And then I think they got it right at number 2 with Joe Burrow, because Burrow's been the one that I think has pushed Patrick Mahomes the most in terms of just the AFC. Because, Josh Allen had that great back and forth with Patrick Mahomes in the divisional round, but Josh Allen has yet to beat Mahomes in the playoffs.
I believe Joe Burrow is the only AFC quarterback to ever beat Mahomes in a playoff game. Well, maybe Brady did Mahomes his first year starting in the AFC Championship game. But active players, it's been only Burrow.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring up Josh Allen because he's number 3 on the list. I think that's too high for Josh Allen. And I'll tell you why. Because this brings up my whole wide receiver skill position player argument that I constantly make. Before Stephon Diggs got traded to Buffalo, did we really hear anything about Josh Allen?
You should have been. It was a mistake. Josh Allen was playing very good football. He was on his way to being a top 10 quarterback. He was the most underlooked quarterback in that 2018 draft.
But he didn't live up to his potential of being.
Yeah, he did.
No, until he got. I would say he didn't live up to his hype until he got Stephon Diggs.
Well, I would disagree with that.
Why? I didn't.
Josh Allen was ascending before they got Diggs. The reason why they went out and got Diggs. So then he could ascend even further. He was top 10-ish until they got Diggs. Then he turned into a top 5 quarterback for a few years.
I would say he really hit his stride once he got Stephon Diggs.
Well, most quarterbacks do. When you're on a rookie deal, that's what you do. I mean, you can't not. Mahomes did it. Mahomes had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and they had other weapons in there the first couple of years of his career.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why, I'm glad they didn't put Brock Purdy in this top 10 is because I feel like Brock Purdy is a product of the pieces around him. I don't know. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. If you're going to take out Allen at 3, who you got to replace it?
Lamar Jackson.
No, Josh Allen is better than Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson has won MVP twice. He's been to the AFC Championship game.
So has Josh Allen, and guess who beat him head-to-head in the playoff game? Josh Allen did. Josh Allen has had more success, I would argue. I think it's very similar. Lamar may have he has 2 more regular season MVPs. So I understand that argument. But when it comes to a quarterback that you trust late with the game on the line, I'm taking Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson because, by the way, Allen's been more healthy.
Okay, I like this pick. And Grandizer agrees with me. Josh Rosen was
Josh Rosen was not considered the most NFL QB ready in that draft. That is false. That was Sam Darnold, who was considered the most NFL QB ready. And I told everybody who would listen to me that Josh Rosen was a bust and that Josh Allen would be the best quarterback coming out of this class because you don't draft he's the most ready. He's been in the pro system. You draft on potential, and Josh Rosen did not have the drive to play in the National Football League, and neither did Sam Darnold. I told people Sam Darnold was going to be a backup. I told people Josh Allen was going to be a star. And so bottom line is, no, that's incorrect. I'm sorry.
Yes, and Grandizer, thank you for helping me make my point. Josh Allen did struggle in his first 2 years, and no one crowned him until he got on the same page as Brian Daboll.
Okay, but again, Brady, Ed Belichick, Mahomes, and Andy Reid, all-star quarterbacks have great coaches.
I'm not dismissing that. What makes you think I'm just dismissing the coaches?
You act like Josh Allen was the biggest bum in the world his first 2 years of his career.
No, I didn't say that. I never said he was a bust, but he wasn't living up to what the standards that we were holding him to. Not until he got Stephon Diggs and he got on the same
There,
page as.
there was no standards. Buffalo was in the basement for 20 years.
But then once they got Josh Allen,
No. Nobody thought that because nobody but me thought Josh Allen was a good quarterback. Remember,
exactly my point.
there was people saying Josh Allen should start for the first 2 years of his career. Remember that conversation?
Exactly my point. You just made my point for me.
By the way, the same people said Lamar Jackson should be a wide receiver.
Okay, that part I didn't agree with. I saw what Lamar did at Louisville. He won a Heisman Trophy as a quarterback, and he has proven himself to be a great quarterback. Hell, he's won 2 MVPs.
I would just take Josh Allen over Lamar. I think it's close, but I would take Josh Allen.
I'm taking Lamar. Okay, what are some of your other gripes with the top 10? Or do you not?
Well, for starters, I think Dak being in the top 10 is, to be honest with you, probably a little low.
You think
I think he should be up.
Really?
I think Dak should probably be about top 7 or top 8.
Who would you move him ahead of?
Well, Trevor Lawrence is not a top 10 quarterback. Let's start there. Right now, Trevor Lawrence is not a top 10 quarterback.
No.
I think he's ahead of Matthew Stafford. I'm not the biggest Matthew Stafford fan. You know it. I've told you this for 2 years. I know he won a Super Bowl in LA. I've never been the biggest fan of Matthew Stafford. So there's 2 right there I would move Dak ahead of. Aaron Rodgers, I would move Dak ahead of. Absolutely. Aaron's 40. He hasn't had a good season in 3 years. He's coming off a torn ACL. Dak bounced off his torn ACL and put up MVP-like numbers.
Okay, I would consider moving him ahead of Aaron Rodgers. I didn't see Trevor Lawrence anywhere on the list, so I'm fine with that. I would not put Dak ahead of Matthew Stafford as of right now.
By the way, I have Dak ahead of Herbert, too. What has Herbert done?
That I'm okay with. I am totally cool with that because I don't know what the Chargers are doing with Justin Herbert right now.
I know what they're doing. They're going to win 11 games and be competitive with Kansas City in that AFC West. I know exactly what the Chargers are doing. Herbert's going to have the best year of his career this year.
So, but here's my question. I know it was only 10 games, but didn't a certain quarterback replace Aaron Rodgers, go into Dallas?
Oh, stop it.
Beat the Cowboys. And
I know you're all in on Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love's going to regress this year.
Hell no. Are you kidding?
What makes us think? Again, I keep telling you this, Josh. We have a 7-game sample size of Jordan Love being a good quarterback. For 8 games, his coach told him he couldn't play. At Halloween, we kept saying Jordan Love is a bust. How did he go from at Halloween he was a bust to being a top 3 quarterback the rest of the year? I don't know. But he's not a top 10 quarterback now.
Yes, he is. Are you kidding me?
At the end of the year, he played like that, but I got to get more data. I got to see him now in a full year in a tougher division, by the way.
Green Bay. You think Green Bay's going to regress that much?
Yes, I think Green Bay's going to be in 3rd place this year.
Okay, so you have Detroit winning the division.
And I have Chicago absolutely making the wild card. Absolutely. They upgraded the most out of any team this whole offseason. They won 7 games last year with a quarterback who got awards for the game and is in Pittsburgh backing up a guy that can't play quarterback anymore. And they upgraded a number 2 receiver, number 3 receiver, running back. They still have a top 10 defense. The Bears are going to be very good.
Not better than the Packers.
Yes, they are. They will at least be on the same level. I think they could be a game or 2 better. I absolutely could see that.
I have Green Bay hanging right there. And
by the way, the Bears have what, a 3rd or 4th place schedule? Green Bay's got a 2nd place schedule. Advantage Chicago.
Okay, but Green Bay, did you not see how Green Bay came within a quarter of beating San Francisco?
And guess what? In the National Football League, progression is not linear. This is not baseball. This is not basketball. Teams go from we think they're going to be Super Bowl contenders to falling off a cliff.
So do you see that happening with the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud?
I'm saying they could regress. They could win 10 or 9 games and not be the favorite in the South if Anthony Richardson improves in year 2. I think Lawrence is going to have a bounce back year. Again, not top 10, but maybe somewhere around there. And their division is harder. Yes, I could see that.
So CJ Stroud is number 7 on this list. Do you think that's too high, too low? What do you think?
I think it might be a little too high. I think I think he was great. I think he was top 10 last year. I think he's probably 10 right now.
What? Are you
Yeah.
rookie?
I'll take Jared Goff over CJ Stroud. I'll take my guy Jalen Hurts over CJ Stroud. I would take Stroud probably, if I had to go over my head, I think Stroud's probably about 10.
I totally agree with Grandizer on this.
Yeah, I am projecting. That's what I do with the media. You guys are afraid to put your freaking takes out there. Yeah, I am going off hope. You know why? Because I've seen teams that come into the year off hope. And by the way, there's teams that people predict to go 4th place in their division and they go on to win the Super Bowl. Yes, that's what I'm doing.
You, again,
just do you not know how sports media works? This is my job.
The Packers proved they were a great team.
Yes. Did they prove it? I don't know. They look like it, but this is the 2024 Packers. That was the 2023 Packers.
They made additions, not subtractions.
What addition did they make? You want to go ahead and tell me? Oh, Josh Jacobs. He's a downgrade, in my opinion, from Aaron Jones.
Okay. Jordan Love, gets another year in Matt LaFleur's offense. He gets another year to develop chemistry with the likes.
And he gets a better Bears team, and he gets a better Lions team. And by the way, the Vikings have weapons freaking everywhere.
I still trust the Packers.
Well, you could listen. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad team. I'm just saying
it certainly sounds like that's what you're saying.
Some people have them as Super Bowl contenders. I'm saying they're somewhere between 8 and 10 wins, not 10 to 12. They're going to be good. They're not going to be great.
Yeah. You are insane.
Some people have them winning the division over Detroit, which I think is insane. Detroit, I think may have the first or second best roster in the whole league next to San Francisco.
I'm not ready to say the Packers are going to jump the Lions to win the division, but the Packers are better than the Lions. Or I'm sorry, I did not mean to say that. I meant to say the Packers are better than the Bears. There we go. I meant to say the Packers are better than the Bears.
Green
Bay will be in the playoffs again. Chicago will miss out again. And Green Bay will continue to own Chicago, as they always do.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. Again, this is why in 2 weeks or whatever, we're going to preview the NFL season. I cannot wait.
Yes. Why is Aaron Rodgers a top 10 quarterback right now? Somebody tell me.
You tell me.
I genuinely don't know. What did he play? Oh, right. 4 snaps. And then the Jets season went boo, completely down the drain.
By the way, the Jets won 7 games last year without a quarterback. So you guys are saying I've been saying the Bears aren't going to be improved. The Jets didn't have a quarterback. In my opinion, Chicago didn't have a quarterback last year, and the Bears' offensive upgrades are better than the Jets.
That I can agree with, because the Jets signed players that tend to get injured. I do. Maybe they're going to turn MetLife Stadium into an infirmary. I don't get it. But
I don't know. When it comes to Aaron being a top 10 quarterback, I don't know. Off the top of my head, Mahomes, Allen, Stroud, Lamar, Lawrence, Ertz, Goff. I'll even throw Love in there. I actually think Caleb Williams right now, without playing a snap in the NFL, is better than Aaron Rodgers. There, I said it.
Okay. I will entertain that. I will definitely entertain that. I'm not sure I'm fully ready to agree with you on that, but I will entertain that.
By the way, that's what 10 right there. Dak, I think, is a better quarterback than Rodgers right now. Stafford certainly is. You could make an argument, I think, for Kyler Murray. I don't know. I think it's close. I think Kyler's a forgotten quarterback. I think Kyler's very good when he was healthy last year at the end of the year.
That's the problem with Kyler, though, is he has too much injury
Well, but isn't
prone.
that the problem with guys like Burrow? I mean, that's why, and I agree, Burrow is probably the second best quarterback in football, but one more injury, and Burrow's going to have to, Cincinnati might have to think about drafting a quarterback. And by the way, I don't think that's nuts to say.
It. I don't think so either. You think about it, he's already had a wrist injury. He's already had,
Torn ACL, he had a calf injury.
yeah.
But if this is going to be Burrow, do you realize this is going to be Burrow's first healthy training camp he's had since he walked into the league his rookie year?
That's crazy, actually.
2020, he's coming off the torn Achilles. The year they made the Super Bowl, when he went back to camp, I don't know if you remember, he had an abdominal tear. Didn't play in the preseason, got injured in training camp, didn't have a lot of snaps. Last year was obviously the wrist and the calf injury. So, Burrow, a healthy training camp.
It's going to be interesting with Cincinnati, though, because they haven't gotten a contract extension done with Jamar Chase yet. So,
they drafted the receiver out of Bama in the first round. I think they're just going to put all their eggs in one basket and go for it this year.
They kind of have to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because if the Bengals don't get it done this season, I don't know when they could get it done. And you could argue Cincinnati's or the AFC's best chance really to knock off Kansas City was last year when the Chiefs had all their, wide receiver troubles. We originally had this in the rundown, but we cut it out. But I'll just bring it up. Did you see the Twitter video over the weekend of Patrick Mahomes making that crazy pass to Xavier Worthy?
I did not.
It was nuts. He was like going on the run, like got forced out of the pocket, throwing it on the run. Xavier Worthy just goes, "Yeah, I got it." And I'm just like, "Oh God, we have our new version of Tyreek Hill." I mean, how is anybody going to stop this Kansas City offense now? You've got Travis Kelce, who is arguably the greatest tight end of all time.
I don't think it's an argument now. I think he is.
Okay. Then you've got speed on one side with Hollywood Brown. And then what did the Chiefs do? They trade up with the Buffalo Bills, which that's never hurt the Bills in the past. And they go get the fastest wide receiver in the draft in Xavier Worthy. Yeah. Good luck, AFC.
Well, and with that, is there anything else on this topic you want to go over?
No.
All right. Let's move on, Josh, because next week, next week, we got to get to the MLB trade deadline. I was going to do SummerSlam, but we got one more topic to get there before that. The MLB trade deadline, Cleveland Guardians. I don't know if they're going to make a move. I'm just being honest here.
I don't think they're going. I'm not sure they're going to. I mean, they've been scuffling as of late.
Losing 14 of their last 22 games. And by the way, for the record, I was at the game on Saturday night against San Diego. Not fun. Obviously, one hit. Closest I've ever come to seeing a no-hitter in my young wife. The offense was just dead. Credit to Dylan Cease and that San Diego staff. I don't think it's a lot of what the Guardians are doing. I think it's just sort of a mental block right now. But the good news for them is, and I will say this, the Yankees went on a similar streak earlier this year. And we've seen in baseball, teams go ebb and flows with streaks. Sometimes when you face this adversity, you come out better. And so I don't know if this is necessarily a bad thing.
You could be right, but it's an interesting time for them to be having this cold spell because they just came off of losing 2 of 3 against San Diego. Now they're in the midst of this 4-game series against Detroit. And then you have to go to Citizens Bank Park to take on the best team in Major League Baseball, the Philadelphia Phillies. Not good timing to have this type of cold streak.
No, but by the way, can I add something? Because I don't know if people truly realize this. You know, they're still only like 1.5 games out of first place in the entire American League, and they're only 3.5 games out of the best record in baseball.
Yeah, but when you got teams like Baltimore, New York, Houston's back in the mix.
Houston is. By the way, for the record, this is how wonky baseball has been right now. Because I'm looking at the standings. You know, the hottest team in the league is the Dodgers, and they've only won 4 games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting coming down the stretch. There's a lot of big series left to be played.
When it comes to the trade deadline, you know, I think we all think the Guardians could use an extra starter, obviously. I think they could use an extra bat. I think the issue is going to be these teams know this, and they know the history of Antonetti and Chernoff and what the Guardians have done to win trades. And the Guardians generally don't lose a ton of trades as an organization. And I think these teams know that, you know, if they give up a star to go to Cleveland, they're going to only get prospects back. And I don't know if they feel like it's going to be worth doing it.
Right. And they also know that generally the Guardians are cheapskates.
Well, not when it comes to trades. I mean, you can't really be a cheapskate on trade. It's more about value when it comes to trades.
Sure. But when it comes to like signing free agents and retaining their own players.
Yeah, but why would a team care about that? I mean, you don't really care about the player. You're trying to get rid of him. You're trying to get the most value you can back for the player.
That part is true, but you mentioned it. The Guardians do need starting pitching, but here's the problem. A majority of the league needs a starting pitcher.
At least half, if not more.
Yeah. So there's not a lot to go around.
And there's not a lot of options out there. And there's not a lot of options when it comes to bats either. And here's the thing, in the National League, I don't know if you've seen the wild card standings for just the National League alone. It's insane because the Washington Nationals, who are the third worst team in the National League, they're only 4.5 back of the wild card spot. So there's a lot of teams jawing for position, which I think is going to make more teams buyers than sellers.
Yeah. And think about it. You basically have a 6-way tie for the third wild card spot with the likes of the Mets, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals. Pirates are somehow in the mix.
And a lot of those franchises, you mentioned Arizona, obviously made it to the World Series last year, St. Louis. These are baseball blue bloods, if you will. And so they're not going to give up and punt the season.
Right. And you even mentioned Washington. They came from a wild card and won the World Series in 2019.
We've seen it many times in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. I mean, heck, the 2014 World Series was the Giants and the Royals. They were both wild card teams.
Yeah, and I think the two teams that obviously guys are going to try to target is the Marlins and the White Sox, seeing what they could get out of those two bottom feeders. It sounds like the White Sox are playing hardball, which I don't understand, especially with us when it comes to Garrett Crochet. I get it, you don't want to trade him in the division, but as I have made the argument to you, they are so bad, I'd be willing to just get anything back to start my franchise over.
Yeah, but I do understand like not wanting to trade within your own division by the same token.
Yes, and maybe they are going to trade Crochet, maybe they're not. I don't know. The Guardians have not been afraid to trade in their own division. They traded with Chicago before. They traded with Detroit.
Yeah. So we'll see. It from what I've heard, the Guardians they want to make a run this season, but they're not going all in. From what I've heard,
Which I understand it, but I think it could be a mistake. Now, depending on what you give up I think they need to find a more power hitting shortstop. I think that's probably the biggest hole in the lineup. I don't know if they're going to get it. Um, I think it's very interesting to see what they do because they have a very young team. And that's the problem is you take advantage of this window where you have one of your best teams in years and the American League is maybe not as powerful at the top outside of Baltimore and the Yankees as it has been, and maybe Houston's starting to get back into it. Do you just take your chances with the young kids you have? Because in baseball, once you make the postseason, anything can happen.
Right.
And
So,
I'll also say this: baseball is a weird sport where if they go out tonight, they could if they get 7 or 8 runs or whatever against the Tigers. I feel like if you just have one good game, one good night, turn your whole season right back around.
it's interesting you say that because Detroit has kind of owned us as of late. Like, they won 3 out of 4 in the 4-game series against the Guardians before the All-Star break. They won last night. I think Detroit leads the regular season series like 5-3, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I can look it up.
They
But
are still, for the record, when it comes to the wild card, they are 6 games back.
oh,
So
yeah,
that
but they're only a game under 500.
Yeah, but you're still, it doesn't matter where you're at. You're still 10 back in the division, which can be very hard to make up at this point. Like, I think Tampa, they're at 500. They're probably not a playoff team, but they sell off some people. Detroit, I feel like, is in a similar situation. And the Angels, if they have anything else to give, they're 9 games back. It's not really your record, it's more of where am I at in the standings.
Right. By the way, I was correct. Detroit it leads the regular season series 5-3.
I mean, after you beat somebody's ass for so many times, so many years, it eventually comes back to haunt you.
Yeah. So
All right, shall we get to the updated WWE SummerSlam card? Because there was 2 big announcements last night on Monday Night Raw.
and we had a big announcement on SmackDown.
Yes, we did.
So, but let's start with the major one that came out last night, which I wonder how this match is going to play out because we finally got the match we all were anticipating: CM Punk against Drew McIntyre. But who is the special guest referee? None other than the architect, the visionary, Seth freaking Rollins. This is going to be awesome. I hope they recreate the SummerSlam spot from 1997. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
I believe it was with John Cena when he was the special guest referee.
In 97?
I think.
No, wait, do you mean the 2011 spot?
Yes, that's
It's
right.
not 19. What are you, I was like, what are you talking? John Cena was in the WWE until 2002.
Okay, then I'm talking about 2011. My bad. Where Cena was the referee, I forget who the match was between off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
I saw this clip on the internet. I don't think it was a SummerSlam spot though. I think it was Wade Barrett and somebody else.
It might have been Punk, actually.
I think it was Punk, yeah.
So I hope they recreate that spot. That would be hilarious. Where Rollins just punches one of them in the face. Nope, you can't touch me. I'm a ref.
I think this is gonna be an all out brawl. I'm very excited for this. I think the rules are gonna be thrown out the window. There's gonna be some screwy finish. Probably nobody wins type of deal, and I can't wait for it.
It's going to be fun. And then the other match we got to talk about. I know. The story I don't give a shit about. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley for the championship. Whoop-de frickin' do. Can we
Boy,
get
Liv
this?
Morgan broke the internet last night, I'll tell you that.
Yes, she did. But I agree with Seaboss. She's a less talented Alexa Bliss.
Wow, that's harsh.
It's true, though. Alexa Bliss was better.
Well, I love Alexa Bliss, but what Liv Morgan is doing right now is top tier character work.
Can this whole story please be over? Every time,
Can
every
this whole story continue all the way to WrestleMania of next year?
no, thank you. Every time it's on, I fast forward through it on my DVR.
I don't get what your issue with it is.
I hate it. It is.
But why? You just say you hate it. There is a reason why.
It's. I just don't care about this whole love triangle and Damian or Dominic Mysterio being caught in the middle. I don't find
This is a classic professional wrestling storyline.
Okay, that doesn't mean I have to like it.
I mean, this is a man who is such an idiot, who is so stupid, who has a stupid mustache on his stupid face, that he is caught between a girl who some people, dare I say, look like a man, and another one who's a hot little blonde.
I even wrote this on my Twitter. It's not entertaining at all. When I watch Raw on my DVR, like I said, I fast forward through it, and I just don't care. I just don't care.
Again, though, you're not giving the reason. You're just like, I don't care.
It's not entertaining. Like, I don't care. Like, okay, Dominic Mysterio is caught between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. And? What?
There is an emotional connection here. That this is why you invest and this is why you watch in the product. Because, again, this story has been brewing for months.
And we all know it's going to end with Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio.
Well, do we? Do we? Because I don't know if that's how it's going to end.
It's going to be that Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest get kicked out of the Judgment Day. Neither of them hold the titles after SummerSlam. Yada, yada, yada.
Wow, Mr. Negative over here.
Hey, I'll tell you what match I am excited about, though. Gunther versus Damian Priest. Now, this match I am super excited about.
Well, you just said you don't care because Priest is not going to be world champion.
At least I think that's what's going to happen.
That's what I'm telling you about the lift out thing.
This is completely different. I don't.
No, it's the same thing.
It is not.
It's completely the same thing. What do you mean?
How? No. Gunther versus Damian Priest is not about, oh, a boy is caught between two girls. What? No.
It's unpredictability, Josh. It's not about what the storyline's about. It's the whole revolving door around the story. The Priest still has to deal with Judgment Day while he's dealing with Gunther because everything in the Monday Night Raw universe is freaking connected.
But I'll tell you this. I could see a world where they hold off on giving Gunther the title until Bash at Berlin in August. Or later in August, I should say.
I do too. I do wonder if that's the case. I don't think Priest defeats Gunther clean.
Okay, I could agree with you on that. But if they choose to keep the title on Priest, I wonder if they maybe want to go back to the Seth Rollins feud, and then with Bad Blood coming up, I brought this idea up to you. Maybe you do Finn Balor.
No, I think we're gonna do Rhea and Liv inside Hell in a Cell.
Okay, I could definitely see that at Bad Blood.
Yes.
Okay, but Gunther versus Priest is going to be fun. I'll tell you what.
You and I disagree on this. I don't see one bad match on this entire card.
The only match that I'm not interested in, it really is Liv versus Rhea. But Bayley versus Nia Jax, in terms of my excitement level, I give that about a 6. It's interesting, but
I'm more excited for what's coming after that match.
Yes.
We will have a new women's world champion after that match.
Or what they could do is they have Nia Jax win the title, and then you just have Tiffy being like, I'm going to cash it, And then you just have this whole dynamic where Nia's like, "You're not going to cash in on me, are you?" Tiffy's like, "No." And she's just straight up lying.
See, how about this? I won't give my full prediction until next week, but I have my prediction on this. You're half right.
I think, I either way, I think this match is going to be fun. But I'll tell you, the other match I'm most excited for, which I did not think it was going to be a singles match again, but Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker.
I think this is where Sami Zayn might die. Sami Zayn might end up at the end of SummerSlam at the Cleveland Clinic.
I, based on the way it was going, I thought this was going to be a triple threat match. I really did.
I did too, but I liked the way that they protected Dragunov with that spear. That was a nice, cool spot last night on Raw. You protect Dragunov. He didn't take the pin. You can move to a Dragunov breaker Intercontinental Championship feud eventually. I don't mind it. I think that if you were going to extend this feud, it's the way to do it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I do agree with you. Well, again, we'll get into our full predictions, but I do think Sami loses his title because of what we saw in the main event of Raw last night. Who did Sami Zayn tag team with? Jey Uso, who's probably coming back at SummerSlam. Roman Reigns. Do you get where?
Yes, I cannot wait for this. Going to be a massive pop in Cleveland Brown Stadium, and we're going to have a whole fall of old Bloodline versus new Bloodline.
Dude, that if we end up getting that as the War Games match, good grief, plug me in. Yes, I'm loving this new Bloodline. I really am.
I can't stand them. They're not even a Bloodline. Half of them aren't even a part of the family.
I don't care.
Solo ain't no real tribal chief. Solo's a paper tribal chief.
I don't care. Just the way they have gone cuckoo loco and are just destroying everything in their path. I love it.
At some point, we will get back to the tribal chief and Cody Rhodes. I don't know when.
Yes.
At some point, we will.
But here's my one big gripe with this whole card is the show is happening in Cleveland. Why does Miz not have a match?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I don't know.
Why does Johnny Gargano not have a match?
I thought Gargano they would give the SmackDown before because he's on SmackDown. And there's no disrespect to Johnny Gargano, but I think national media and mainstream, I think people in Cleveland just know Miz more than Gargano.
That's totally fair.
I would not be mad if Johnny gets a SmackDown spot before. I think they will do Miz dirty if he is not a part of this show.
I agree, but I'd love to see. No disrespect to Miz, because Miz is great, but there's just something about Johnny Gargano that I'm like, I want to see him live.
Maybe they do a hosting segment with Miz where he gets a match against somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, it wouldn't feel right if Miz and or Gargano don't have some type of match at SummerSlam.
I got a feeling Gargano will not. I have a feeling they will defend the tag titles at SmackDown before.
And I'm cool with that, but ever since they took the tag titles off of Miz and R-Truth, I don't think we've seen either one of them.
No, which is interesting.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to wrap things up there for Championship Rings. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in tonight. As always, subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at Rings Champion, Instagram Rings Champion, Facebook at Rings Champion 216. A reminder, next week, we're going to preview SummerSlam 2024 with C-Boss Gaming and any other news in the sports world.
Yep, and then we're taking 2 weeks off and coming back full-fledged NFL.
Cannot wait with that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks everybody who popped in the chat tonight as well. We'll see you guys next week with C-Boss. And peace.
A salute to you.